7:30 OTB AM. Very welcome along to the show. Shane, good morning to you.
Good morning, how are things?
Kathleen, what's happening?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
No tea.
No tea. Very sad.
Got me a cup of tea this morning.
Both forgot. Kathleen actually went to the effort of making up.
I made a cup of tea and then I got chatting to Phil about the squad that's been announced today for the World Cup and asking me had I read Vera Pauw's latest interview, and then I was like, oh, the time. I was supposed to be in my chair getting set up and I forgot my tea.
You're like, did you ever have a teacher in school where you'd go, like we had one where you go in and you go, oh, sir, no, tell us about that Galway game.
Oh, yeah, distractions.
Where that thing happened.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes later he'd be like, oh, damn it, got me again.
We used to have a great teacher for that, double business on a Wednesday in Leaving Cert, and there was only like 9 of us in the class. You just ask her about anything that was in the news and she'd just talk for the entire thing, and then it'd be like 15 minutes before the end of class and she'd be like, you need to pass your Leaving Cert.
Yeah. Then the exam comes around and you're like, oh crap.
That's, Kathleen, how I feel about you, particularly at the minute in relation to the women's national team. Anything around the office, and it's like, you know, legitimately, because the squad's been named as well. But the tea is a weird start. The tea, I'm not going to lie, is a weird start to the day, lads. I'm sorry I'm sitting in judgment, but
no, I'm sad as well because I don't know, this whole morning didn't sleep great last night, so just have been a bit rushed all morning, and I've only had 1 cup of tea so far, and normally at this stage I would have at least 2, maybe even 3 in me.
You're not a coffee drinker?
No.
10 flat whites thrown in the Gara house? 8 to 10 flat whites a day?
That's about 8 or 9 too many.
A very great man coming in here with my cup of tea. Thank you, Jojo.
I'd be wearing shorts this morning, Jojo, but fair play.
He didn't see the shorts.
That's above and beyond the Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That is what we call
Shane was just saying there, Jojo, he was looking for
1 sugar.
Tea is a weird start to the day, lads. I'm not going to lie.
That's warmed my heart now. It's a better day.
Tea is a weird start to the day.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were judging the fact that we hadn't got any drinks.
Sorry, yeah, so did I.
That was the
No, I'm absolutely seeing judgment.
What's your start to the day?
Coffee.
What, like Americano?
Some version of a flat white, whatever I can get out of the machine there.
Right. Whatever comes
Not a lot out of that machine, in fairness.
No, it's all good.
I don't know, I've never been a coffee drinker.
At all?
Not really. And more so since I've started this job a bit more, like there are some days where it gets to about 11 o'clock and I'm just like, I can't do this.
Oh, I love a cappuccino after the show. I used to take a coffee before the show, and I've weaned myself off it now.
Have you? Why?
I take maybe a green tea or a peppermint tea pre-show.
Wow.
And then
to chill yourself out because you're worked up about stuff.
I'm so stressed about things usually. And then after the show I go out off site and get myself a nice little cappuccino somewhere.
Right, good man.
Obviously
nice
a Brayburn one.
Of course,
exactly.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
green tea pre-show. No, it's all revelations at the moment.
Yeah.
Shane and I are just very measured, controlled people.
Exactly, yeah.
We're high on life.
That's the root of my surprise here, Kathleen.
You should try it.
You're drinking green tea?
Yeah.
Very good. 7:30. Do get your comments coming into us, whatever it is that's got your interest this morning. Lots of stuff going on. There's been all the I was going to call it live stuff, whatever you want to call it yourself, stuff in relation to the golf during the week, and I was kind of struck by how everybody is now trying to you're expected to sit in front of the cameras and the microphones and rationalise the outrage that you've had for the previous 2 years, and also try and salvage your career at some point, because otherwise the only possibility for the likes of Rory McIlroy, who on some level you've got to have an awful lot of sympathy for, given that he was, as he said himself, the sacrificial lamb. You've got to rationalise all that stuff and then make accommodations for the fact that that's going to be the root of your paycheck for the rest of your career, and it's there to save golf. So that's certainly one thing that's going on. You have the announcement of the women's national team squad later today, which will be hopefully a bit of an indicator as to what's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time. You have Rhasidat Adeleke tearing it up again at the NCAA's overnight, and then you have also the other story this morning that we'll touch on is Galway Armagh. The CCCC have decided that they ain't going to Croke Park next weekend.
You need to come up with a better name than
I know.
CCC. Every time I say it, I'm like CCCC.
I really like it.
Oh really? You're into it?
CCC. If you can say it properly and it just comes off the tongue.
But do you not always get to the kind of second or third last C in your life?
Yeah, unless you're saying it very
How many have I done before? Do I need
There's always a temptation just to do 10 C's, but then
Yeah, it's true. Well, the Crappy Quiz Committee comes into it as well, you see.
The who?
We have the Crappy Quiz Committee, which adds an extra C or two.
CQC.
Yeah, of course.
So let's start there then. They've decided that Park Sean will do just fine for the two lads on Sunday week, and it isn't a dead rubber in the group. There are still things to be fought for. There is a weird potential outcome, an unlikely outcome, where Westmeath beat Tyrone, Armagh beat Galway, and then it's Tyrone that don't go through and Westmeath to do, and then there's jockeying for positions between Galway and Armagh after that. So that's kind of what's at stake in that. It's not really the absolute jeopardy. I think it seems, reading between the lines, that the CCCC would have wanted absolute jeopardy between the two as to who would go through and who wouldn't, and also the recent attendances from both teams suggest that they won't get, so it's 10,000 I think, is it, in Carrick-on-Shannon?
Under
9,000, yeah.
9,000, yeah, okay. So there was 4,000 in Mullingar. I think there might have been about 10,000 at Armagh's last game.
Armagh fans do travel well, to be fair.
Yeah.
So they're one of the counties that will have a lot of people.
So they're kind of a bit worried that there won't be a huge, dwarf, that attendance would be dwarfed at Croke Park, and so they'll just leave it off. I'm not entirely against the idea of them having asked for the game to be played at Croke Park. If Dublin can have their home games in Croke Park, then I think everybody else should be entitled to at least put their hand up and go, hey, wouldn't mind a bit of that pie.
Bit of practice,
yeah,
on the big pitch. Maybe that's what they're both looking for. Armagh and Galway,
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, to get used to it. And not that they're not used to it, they both played each other in the quarter-final there last year, but yeah, I can see the argument for both. Like, I like the fact the little provincial grounds getting their day in the sun. Like, this will probably be the biggest game at Park Sean with Diarmid all summer. As you say, it does have jeopardy, and I think people probably don't realise the jeopardy involved. Like, for Armagh and Tyrone in their respective games, finishing second or third, well, obviously finishing second in your group gets you home advantage for the next round, the preliminary quarter final. But if you finish third, there's a scenario there where you could play away to Kerry in a preliminary quarter final, because Kerry will probably finish second. Otherwise, you've got a relatively handier game. So for Armagh, there's a lot at stake. For Tyrone, there's a lot at stake in their game against Westmeath. So I know there's no jeopardy as such.
It's just not that cliff edge make or break, right?
No, but none of the groups really are massively cliff edge.
No, but do you know what I mean in terms of the rationale about sending it to Croke Park?
Yeah.
So
I don't even get the rationale from the side. Like, even if it was a massive jeopardy game, do you want that swamped by Croke Park? If, say, like 15,000 people turn up, like, there's not going to be any atmosphere. Everyone's going to be spread out. You have that in a smaller, like, there are plenty of other stadiums that they could have asked to go to rather than Shamrock, and like, they would have been grand. They would have had like a great atmosphere. They would have had their extra fans there. If there was like a couple of hundred seats free, it wouldn't have mattered. Even if they got a 20,000 seater stadium, I don't know why they would want to go into Croke Park and it be empty, hollow, and and a bigger pitch. Even as well, if it's a match with jeopardy, like, I always think about what, say, the women's team said when people were like, "Oh, move to the Viva, don't play your qualifiers in the Tala." And they were like, "Well, Viva's a bigger pitch. We know what we're playing in Tala." Like, Croke Park is a massive pitch. You're putting a little bit on the line there in terms of, well, is our fitness up to scratch? Are they going to be fitter? Are we going to be able to run for longer? Is it going to suit our game better? Is it going to suit their game better? You're just leaving, I don't know, a lot of things up in the air, and I just thought it was a really weird venue to choose. I totally understand if they wanted to go somewhere else, even if they wanted to go to one of the big provincial grounds. It would have made more sense.
Just
to
the
me.
geography, isn't it? Like, I know there's other grounds being used that weekend. Breffni Park's being used. There's a lot of grounds in between kind of in use. Like, Armagh fans were left a bit disappointed after the Ulster final because a lot of them missed out on tickets for that Derry game. So I can see why they want to push for this, because fans have been disappointed. I think tickets are only being sold online for the Armagh Galway game. Opposed to clubs.
There will be definitely a lot of fans. I think the rationale from the Galway and Armagh side is exactly like you said, that they want to get the experience of playing in Croke Park.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. But the CCCC don't give two hoots about that. They're more saying, well, you can't come here, for Kathleen's point, which is that it's just not going to be enough in it. And then you do end up with that sort of odd situation of the ground that they're actually playing in not being enough. PWGC on YouTube, good morning to you, said they could have played the Armagh Galway game in Cavan as its bigger capacity. You said there's a game already on there.
I'll double check.
25,000 at Breffni Park, so that would make a bit of sense, but it doesn't tick the box for them in terms of the actual rationale as to why they want to go and get some experience playing at Croker.
Yeah, Tyrone Westmeath is that day at Breffni Park at 4 o'clock, and they obviously have to play the two games at the same time because they're in the same group.
I'm with you.
So obviously Breffni Park can't be the venue. But maybe there's another I don't know, is Brewster Park and Enniskillen an option? It's small as well, so
it just doesn't tick the box for the rationale as to why they want to change it anyway. So
yeah, they need some
I think
No, I can see both sides of the argument. I just, like, it is rare that two counties would agree and be asking for the same thing. So sometimes you'd be like, well, would the GA not just give them what they want? But then also I can see how the atmosphere in Carrick-on-Shannon is going to be brilliant. And I think when Armagh, it'll be happening, and the Armagh and Galway fans that get tickets will be probably happy out that it's on in Carrick-on-Shannon on the day.
I was at Cusack Park last week for last Saturday evening for Mullingar for Westmeath and Galway.
Yeah,
it was a great old game.
Good atmosphere,
really enjoyable. I make this point a lot, but even if you're not into sport, and I appreciate that's probably not I'm preaching to the choir here in terms of our audience, it's just a brilliant thing to do. It was a really good game for a long period of time. Unfortunately, they felt shite at the end, and that was
sending off didn't
sort
help.
of to be expected. Yeah, it didn't help, but the wind was going that way anyway, and Galway had a hatful of goal chances in the first half. But it's definitely, I would have always said that this Westmeath team on their day, when they're putting it together, can battle it out with the big boys.
It's funny,
they could do that for sort of 50-60 minutes.
Westmeath is one of those teams that you looked at the groups at the start and you saw Westmeath and Sligo in the other group. No offence to both of your counties, but probably seen as the teams that would bend over and lose 3 games reasonably comfortably, and that was my fear for these groups, but it just hasn't materialised that way. Like Sligo got the draw the first day against Kildare,
got fairly hammered by Roscommon.
I know, yeah, of course. Roscommon are flying.
I feel mildly offended that you're putting Westmeath in the same category as Sligo. I'm sorry, Kathleen, but that's where I'm at.
Well, who'd win between Westmeath and Sligo at the moment?
Come on now. Come on now. We're not descending into this.
Sligo drew at Kildare, remember that now, and could have won it at the end. Good team there, but West, I do take your point.
Give us a few years.
Yeah, exactly.
We're coming.
So look, that's there and it's bubbling away in the background. There's been a few comments coming in as well. Conor McKeown wondering what the pitch surface in Leitrim is like with the recent dry weather. That's the big concern at the moment for all managers. And Spectre Cole, good morning to you. He's wondering, Shane, if you're going to Carrick tomorrow, and all suggesting the Gaelic grounds in Limerick. There are other options, but again, I just don't.
I was wondering, was the Gaelic grounds in Limerick a bit of a funny suggestion after the Munster hurling final stuff?
The Carrick, that's reference to that's the All Ireland minor football quarter final. Mayo Monaghan. I won't be there. I'll be watching.
He's a Johnny come lately Spectre Core. That's what's going on there.
No,
that's what you're hearing.
There's people slagging me in the comments yesterday saying how much are Mayo going to beat Monaghan by in the All Ireland minor quarter final, because Mayo are after winning Connacht. Monaghan are coming, don't you worry. They lost to Derry.
Don't you worry about that.
They lost to Derry in the Ulster final on penalties. It'll be a good game. So
now, go on. 6 weeks, enough of the Monaghan Miners and enough of Westmeath football and Sligo football. 6 weeks to the kick-off of the World Cup. Friendlies against Zambia, obviously in a couple of weeks. France to come as well.
Both sold out.
Both sold out. And then obviously the game in Australia as well. So with all of that in mind, Vera, Pauw, I'd read one source saying 30 players to be named today. It's this extended training squad. Kathleen, you're saying it might be maybe a couple short of that, and then ultimately it'll all get cut to 23, which seems like a really small,
so low. I don't understand FIFA, the fact that they wouldn't let them, like nearly every single manager from competing federations applied and said, can we have 26? Because I mean, like technically it's 20 outfield players, because you're going to bring your 3 goalies with you as well. So, and
they'll bring 3. They're allowed to bring 3 players as kind of, I mean, which must be the absolute purgatory of all trips to go on if you're one of those 3 players.
Well, especially because because once the first game's played, that's you gone. You know you're definitely not getting called into it. So it's also the thing of like, do you keep the 3 players there? Do you keep them involved in the squad? Do you send them home? Like, there was some talk that England were going to not keep their 3 players with the squad because they were just like additional add-ons, and I was like,
I think from an Irish perspective, you have to keep the 3 of them.
Yeah, like
it's an experience. It could be a once in a lifetime. Hopefully it's not, but like for these players, certainly it could be a once in a lifetime opportunity. Just to soak up the atmosphere of a World Cup. I think if you're on those 3, you'll be gutted to not have made the playing squad, but you still want to be around the team.
Are you allowed to? Are you technically allowed to be involved in training if you're one of the 3?
I think so. So you can be in and around the squad, you just can't
extra
play.
Long studs on and
good try.
Getting stuck in the chain.
That's what I do.
No, that would be fairly harsh. Yeah, it's actually exactly a month today to when I fly out.
So the squad is the squad that's been named today. It's a kind of a weird one because the US players aren't featuring, so it's not a case of if you're not in today, then your chance is gone.
Yeah, so nobody panic when Denise O'Sullivan's name isn't on the list.
So it doesn't mean that let's say did you say there's 29 players being named today, or
28? I thought.
So let's say in that instance, then there's 5 who won't make the 23, but there's actually 8 that won't make the 23. So I mean, everything is still up for grabs. What are you watching out for?
Well, Well, so I've heard through the grapevine, and it's also been reported elsewhere, that there's a few more players from the league here that have been included. So McAvoy, a lot of people were complaining about Tara Hanlon as well. A lot of people were surprised that Jessie Stapleton's name hasn't been more around the squad, which is funny. I actually tweeted that she wasn't involved in the squad from what I heard, and she liked it, so I assume that probably means that she's not in there. But she's definitely one to watch for the future. Like, I don't think this is going to be by any means a make or break chance for her. One of the big talking points is Leanne Kiernan. Obviously, she's been injured for the majority of the season. This is supposed to be her breakout season at Liverpool. You know, top scorer in the Championship last year. Liverpool came in this year, made like a really good start, and she got injured really, really early on. I was supposed to be back 1 month. It was supposed to be 1 month, and then it was 2 months, and it was 3 months, and she just kept getting put back and back, and then eventually only came back the second last weekend before the end of the WSL. So I was having a debate with Emma Carroll and Phil Egan yesterday about whether she should be included or not. I would include her because I think she's one of our few attacking options. I know we saw with the US game that Vera kind of did change up her systems a little bit more, and we did actually attack a bit more than we normally would, but she's like an out and out striker, which we do not have in this team at all. And I think even just for the training squad purposes, she should be in there, but Vera hasn't ever really favoured her, so I'll be very interested to see if she makes it in today. Savannah McCarthy is another one who I'll be interested to see. I interviewed her probably like 2 months ago now, and she was just on her way back from an ACL injury. She was a regular starter when we were in our early qualifying stages before she got that ACL injury, and she said to me at the time that she'd been on the phone nearly every week to Vera about her progress. You know, she's a player that Vera favours, so she's just been back on the pitch the last month or so. So has she shown enough that she'll be able to get a spot in the training squad? Claire Reardon, who plays at Celtic, won the Scottish League. She's been on the fringes as well a lot of the time, but is also, again, one of those players that is very good at attacking and could bring that element for us. So yeah, there's a lot of ifs and buts. Lily, and there's also, we've had so many injuries, you know, even players like Niamh Fahey, she's been injured, she hasn't had all that much game time. Lily Agg hasn't had all that much game time. She writes a really good column actually for The Athletic, which I would recommend. And then we have 4 players who are without clubs, so Rusha, Iljon and the 3 Megans. Although Rusha did say she had been chatting to Vera, and the reason she hasn't been playing the last while is because she wanted to make sure she didn't get injured ahead of the World Cup, and that was something Vera supported, so I assume she's safe enough in there.
This is when Vera Pauw earns her wages. Like, what is she on, 150 grand? And I couldn't imagine the difficulty of having these conversations with players, having to sit them down, and the way in which you tell them is also so important as well. You're not going to the World Cup, hand her on the shoulder. I presume she tells them all in person. Maybe the ones who are not in the camp, obviously she can't tell in person.
Well, see, it depends, because we're running the send-off event on June 28th. Very exciting. It's going to be a great evening, but that's the next morning the squad's announced. And from what I know, Vera's ringing the entire squad the next morning. Right. So like, there's going to be people doing all this like World Cup build up, and you know, certain players say even the last couple of weeks while the league in England was still ongoing, it's been all the home based players that have been doing World Cup events, so like Anya Gorman, Abby Larkin, and like they're not certainties for the squad by any shape or form. So you keep going up to them and being like, how are you feeling? Do you think you're getting in? Amber Barrett is another one we don't know if going to get in. I mean,
they can't leave Amber Barrett out.
Well, like, she hasn't really played, and Potsdam were relegated. Like, she got that shoulder injury in January, and she's talked about how much she's struggled since then. When she has played, she's been playing at like right back. She hasn't been playing.
You can't throw in the squad just for romantic reasons, as in, you know, scored the famous goal.
I mean, I don't know about romance, but she would have played a lot defensively anyway, and then with Ireland would have come in and played up front, and like maybe the fact that she has been injured and hasn't been associated with the stink, maybe that's like the thing that sort of, but I mean, are we not going to revolt as a nation if Amber Barrett doesn't? I mean, I'm all about the romance. I'm like,
that'd be the story, wouldn't it? If she doesn't make the squad, that's the headline.
It's so tough though, because like, it's 20 players if you take away the goalies.
But apart from anything, right, in a crunch game where the chips are down, I will get you a goal, you put me in there. That for me is like,
she's tournament worthy stuff.
She's on the squad. She is in the squad. We'll let's fit around that, but she's in the squad.
Yeah.
Would she be in your hypothetical squad, Kathleen?
She is on the very edge of my hypothetical squad.
That's what I asked though.
To be honest, right now I don't know if she would be.
Right.
Which is I'm gonna have everyone coming after me for saying that. And like, I love Amber. She's great. Like, such a lovely woman and stuff, and like, great player, and absolutely she got us to that World Cup. But I just...
She's Kathleen's cutthroat.
I think
she hasn't, like, just the way she's played and the fact that she hasn't got all that much time, and I don't know.
I'm going to say, right, that we can let's discount the way she's played for the club. That we've a long history, and to be fair, it's not unique to Ireland, of players who are, let's say, like, average enough in their club days and can come in and do an unbelievable job for the country. There's plenty of examples, not just in Ireland, of players' ability to do that, and she's got this stuff in the bank of this is the most recent thing, and she, like, the adulation she gets afterwards, her ability to do it, like, proven ability to do it in a crunch game. I just think, I don't know, I think in terms of looking at a World Cup, there is likely scenarios in the group stages where we're going to be behind. Probably, you know, we're obviously pretty compact defensively, so we may not be that far behind. It's highly possible that we'll be a goal down some of the bigger teams, 10-15 minutes to go. Who are you going to call?
Her ability to play in numerous
That's
positions.
Amber Barrett there.
Do you know, seriously, like, I mean, that's who Vera Pauw is going to turn to.
I don't know what I call. I know she did it in Scotland, and again, I'm not taking that away, but I don't know what I call on her in a crunch match. I don't know if
like the Scotland game, for example.
But I don't know if that. But when I wouldn't have thought going into that game that she would be the person to pull the. I was going to say the cat out of the bag, which doesn't make any sense. The rabbit out of the hat. And I do think, I agree, we talk about this so much on Quay Gig, like, I do think playing regularly, especially in the women's game, is really important, even if you're not playing at like a super high level, if it's championship, if it's like lower down in the Frauen Bundesliga. I would absolutely love it. I will come on here. You can get me to do anything you want if I am wrong and Amber Barrett makes the score.
Clip this up. Clip it up. Get it out there.
I know you need to say now what you want me to do, but I'm not coming back retrospectively. If she does a wonder for us in Australia, I will bow to the altar of Amber Barrett and I will never leave it. I'm just not sure at the moment.
Is there a Donegal-Sligo rivalry? Is this what we're getting to?
I think Kathleen is sort of would associate herself heavily with Donegal, if I'm not mistaken.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, we would spend quite a few weeks up there during the summers and stuff, and yeah, Donegal has a very, very fair, close place in my heart.
No bias in that regard.
No.
I just think
we also have nothing to be rivals about, really.
Yeah. I think
our mountains are prettier than your mountains.
They're rallying. I don't know.
I think Vera Pauw will have sat down and probably already picked her likely 23 plus 3, you would have to assume. Maybe Amber Barrett is part of that plus 3 in the basis of what you're saying, Kathleen. I do think that managers will have a tendency to go back to what they know, for sure, in terms of proven ability and in terms of what they know in terms of she'll probably have a fair idea, injuries notwithstanding, of who her 11 are, and she will be thinking about the points that we're just making about we might be 1-0 down, 2-0 down, 10-15 minutes to go. What do I do at that point? And I do think that will be...
You never know with Vera either. She could parachute someone in today and we'd just be like, who is this person? Like, she's done it at every international break so far.
And then the other thing, obviously announced during the week, is that the money, so they're going to get 28 grand a pop at the very least for turning up, which is a huge, I read somewhere it was like a 300% increase on the base level from the previous World Cup, and the FAI are getting $1.5 million, so probably still with a bit of work to do, but forward steps.
Well, like, the average wage in the women's game is £14,000. So, like,
for is that based off, like, because I mean WNL players are going to be a million miles off WSL.
Well, that's like a basis across, I think, England and Ireland, across all the leagues. That's anyone who's paid, whether it's pro or semi-pro, it's a basic £14,000 wage. So, like, there's several players in our squad who, like, that would be a pretty sweet little landfall to get, and like, they deserve it. That's the thing. Like, when I saw these figures come out, I was actually genuinely shocked. If you're a winner, you get $270,000 each, And I was like, they're actually investing in the women's game. I mean, I'm not giving Infantino absolutely any credit for this because I know it's not coming from him. But yeah, it was just nice to see that they're taking things a little bit more seriously this time around at long last, even if all the broadcasters in Europe, apart from Ireland, who has their broadcasting sorted out, aren't.
Who's broadcasting in Ireland?
RT.
Okay. Our good friend Shifty Lad, good morning to you, Shifty, says, imagine any of those girls that was in Scotland and qualified that cheered with family, friends and colleagues getting dropped for the World Cup. They'd be sick for life. Hopefully that they can all go. I mean, I don't think there's one for everybody in the audience, Shifty, and that's the issue here. And it does have a feel of that, you know, the team who get promoted right from the championship into third league, whatever it might be, and you're looking at them going, I mean, don't celebrate too hard because you ain't going to be around come next season. There is a little bit of that. And
we've been saying that since the start as well, though. Like when they were all celebrating, we were like, God, there's so many of the squad that might not be there.
Just more than we probably imagined.
I mean, the Amber Barrett one, you've really sideswiped me with that, Kathleen. I have to say that is, I've been assuming because there will be there needs to be a statue to Amber Barrett somewhere.
Oh, definitely. What she did.
So on that basis alone,
like what she's done can never be written out of history. Like she brought us to our first ever World Cup. I remember we had this conversation on air a couple of months back when we were talking about what statues would you have, and I said I would have an Amber Barrett statue with a big toe involved somewhere. But like I'm not taking away from her from that at all. And like this is a conversation I've been having with a lot of people who have like kind of work around the women's national team and also who follow it quite closely, who are saying that like they don't fully know if she is going to make it or not. Like I do agree with you. I think Vera is the sort that will stick to what she knows, but if it was me, I would be...
This would be like Alan McLaughlin not making the 94 squad or McAteer not making the 02 squad. This will be fairly significant.
Yeah, I think that would be a big...
The most famous goal in Irish history.
Either we'll be replaying Kathleen's clip there, Shane, or it'll never be mentioned again.
But you know what, as well, like, there's something good about that as well, in the sense that if people do get outraged that Vera Pauw doesn't pick Amber Barrett into the squad, I'm like, that's good. That means we're in the mainstream now. That means that like people know who Amber Barrett is, knows what the goal was. They're like, why isn't she there? Like, I don't mind if we're having those conversations.
We have sort of... Have we? Maybe we haven't. Like, no?
I don't think so. I think the World Cup this year will go a good way towards that, but I think a lot of people's knowledge is probably off like 4 or 5 players, and if you were to ask for a tactical breakdown in the way that a lot of people who follow the Irish team or the Irish men's team, they wouldn't have a half a clue what to say to you. I've had this conversation in far too many pubs with men who follow the men's team, and I'd be like, oh, do you watch the men's team? And they're like, why would I do that? And I'm like, well, you literally travel to Gibraltar to watch the men probably lose. Why not watch a team that's actually going to a major tournament for once?
The other thing that we need to mention is, I mentioned at the top of the show, Rashid Adeleke has been at it again in the best possible sense last night at the NCAA's. 49.86 in the semi-final of the 400 metres to win it, to qualify for the final, which would be run off Saturday night their time, Sunday morning our time, and she ran that time, and there were only 2 sub-50s. I want to give a bit of context here because I think that there can be an element of glazing over when an Irish audience hears about the NCAA's. We're not as plugged into it as like you would be from an American audience point of view. She's unbelievable, really, is the short story here, and she continues to be unbelievable, and she continues to set records. She was pulling up at 49.86. There was only 2 sub-50s in the semi-finals combined. She's still so young in her 400 career. I don't know, is she not run 15 or 20 of these races? And to be clocking the times that she is incredible. And as I said, pulling up, she was second quickest then overall. Britton Wilson of the US set a meet record in the other semi-final, 49.36. Now she was flat out all the way through, and she will be the form runner, and I think that it will be seen as been between the two of them come the final. Wilson's been battling injury on and off over the course of the season, so there's a possibility that the ball is in the court of Rhasidat Adeleke, but she's incredible. She's absolutely incredible, and she was part of the 4x100 as well that set a new NCAA record earlier as well, so absolutely flying it.
Visited the track in Austin, Texas, where she trains college-wise a couple of years ago, and the facilities are ridiculously good. I can see why the NCAA, like, there's money that's pumped into it. It's just amazing facilities, and I didn't even see the indoor facilities and the gym and stuff that'll be used. The best thing you could say about Rashid Adeleke is that often on a Monday we don't get her into the performance rankings. The odd week we will, but generally speaking, she's the one that misses out after doing something amazing at the weekend. We're like, oh, we just don't have room. But it's kind of like the Manchester City in the Champions League final thing. It's like so dominant that it's almost like not a story. So like we haven't built up to the Champions League final much this week at all, because we're like, it's Man City, it's boring, they're going to win the treble, okay, all the money. Rashida's dominance has almost like led to her just being not ignored by Irish media, but like we've come to expect her winning.
Well, we don't really get the NCAAs. That's the thing,
of course,
the enormity of them, and that's part of the rationale for it. But needless to say, like setting records at that level, winning at that level, qualifying easily for finals at that level,
amazing.
Third fastest woman, as Dara points out here, over 400 in the world this year. Like,
what was Derval O'Rourke's quote about her when she was on recently? She says
that she's going to be world class. She was
Ireland's greatest sports person ever.
Irish greatest.
Wow. She's going to be Ireland's greatest sports person ever, she said. And I was like, what? Because like she said, she's in with a shout of a medal at the Olympics. Imagine an Irish sprinter being in with a shout of a medal. Like it's just unheard of.
Yeah,
so
she's very proud of her, and she's continuing to do the good stuff, and we'll keep an eye on her over the weekend as well. She will feature in the performance rankings on Monday morning. Are we saying that? We guarantee? Is this
let's throw it in there, yeah. We'll promise it now.